Okay, let's get started. And the first question I'm going to look at is this question labeled already number 10. And the question reads, name the specific structure where the following biological processes take place. And the first biological process is photolysis in the chloroplast. And of course, what we need to note is this. The process of photosynthesis that occurs in the leaves of plants takes place in the chloroplast. So we must have actually said that plants are autotrophic. So plants are autotrophs. In terms of the types of organisms we have in our environment, plants are autotrophs, to mean they do not rely on any other source of food, but do always make their own food in the presence of sunlight by using carbon dioxide and water. And of course, for us to actually dig deeper into this, we need to understand that photosynthesis, or the food making process, or the manufacturing of food by plants, takes place in two stages. The first stage is called photolysis of water. And photolysis of water occurs in the granum. Photolysis of water occurs in the granum. So photolysis of water occurs in the granum. And in the granum, what happens? We need to know this. Granum, if it is one, and granum, if you are referring to the plural form of this word. So plural form of granum is grana. So we have to talk about a chloroplast in terms of where food gets made in the leaves of plants. And within the same structure as an organelle. And I actually told you that an organelle is a structure within a cell. And if I look at a cell of a plant, more specifically in the leaves, I'll actually find a chloroplast. A chloroplast has a structure within it called a grana. Grana, if there are many. The granum has what we call chlorophyll. The work of the chlorophyll, or the green coloring matter, is to trap sunlight. And once sunlight has been trapped, water molecules are split to give us hydrogen atoms and oxygen gas. Look at that. So in the end, we've actually had a chance of seeing how photolysis of water can occur. I began by saying this. Photosynthesis occurs in the leaves. More specifically, within the leaves, we have what we call the cells. Those cells have structures called chloroplasts. Within the chloroplast, we have what we call the granum. Grana in plural. In the granum, we have what we call chlorophyll molecules, the green coloring matter. These chlorophyll molecules trap sunlight. When they've actually trapped sunlight, the sunlight is used to split water molecules into hydrogen atoms and oxygen gas. Some of the oxygen produced is used by the same plant during respiration to break down the food the plants have actually manufactured so that the plant can also have energy. The remaining oxygen is able to diffuse out of the leaves via the stomata to the surrounding to be used by animals during breathing. The hydrogen atoms are taken to the dark stage that I may actually be able to lay more emphasis on later. So chlorophyll is trapped by the granum. And within this granum, the chlorophyll helps in trapping sunlight. And that sunlight can split these water molecules into hydrogen atoms and oxygen gas. So this is called photolysis. Photo means light, lysis means to break or split. So you're using light to split water molecules. You see, photolysis of water. So photolight, lysis, break. So you're breaking water molecules using light. That has to get done in the granum. So photolysis in the chloroplast occurs in the granum. Okay, and that is facilitated by the chlorophyll molecules found in the granum within the chloroplast found in the leaves. Now, carbon dioxide fixation in the chloroplast. Look at this. This is called the light stage of photosynthesis. Some people refer to this as light dependent. Light dependent. That means this process depends on light. So it is called light dependent or light stage of photosynthesis. Then there's what we call the dark stage. Dark stage of photosynthesis. It is called light independent. Light independent. This does not mean that this process occurs at night. The two processes occur during the day, but the only difference that stands out between the two stages of the food making in the leaves is that dark stage occurs in the absence of sunlight. To mean it does not rely on sunlight. It is an independent process. In the absence of sunlight, the process can still proceed. Look at that. So that means it is light independent or does not rely on light. In the absence or when there's no sunlight, the process still proceeds so that food can get made in the plants. So what happens here? The hydrogen atoms from the dark stage, you see, can actually end up giving us food. And the main type of food made or substrate in the plants is called glucose. So we have actually obtained hydrogen atoms from the light stage. These hydrogen atoms are able to combine with carbon dioxide. It's a gas released by what? One, animals during what you call exhalation or expiration or breathing out, or even from the burning of what? Charcoal, fuels in motor vehicle engines, you see. And of course, some coal mines can as well be able to produce this carbon dioxide gas, you see. And when these combine, they give us what we call simple sugars. And the best example we can have is glucose, you see. And oxygen gas is really released to the surrounding. So at the end of the day, the hydrogen atoms from the light stage and the carbon dioxide from outside are able to combine to give us simple sugars like glucose in this process. So at the end of the day, we've actually manufactured food. And apart from glucose, proteins, fatty acids, and glycerol or the lipids can also get produced, you see. And some of this glucose can get utilized by the plant immediately for it to get energy. And the excess glucose gets converted to starch and gets stored in what? In plants as a polysaccharide for later use. And this is where animals obtain their food because animals are heterotrophic. They do obtain food from plants and other animals, so they do not make their own food. So carbon dioxide fixation is a process where carbon dioxide combines with hydrogen atoms in the stroma of the chloroplast to actually end up giving us simple sugars such as glucose. And of course, lipids and proteins are also manufactured in the process. And you see, at the end of the day, we actually need to know that two very important raw materials are needed in the dark stage from the light stage. I've talked about hydrogen atoms, and I need also to tell you that light energy that was used to split water molecules during the light stage never all got used up in the splitting of the water. The excess light energy from the sun that was absorbed by the chlorophyll molecules in the grana, in the chloroplast, in the leaves of these plants, ended up forming an energy-rich compound called ATP. And this ATP is also taken to the dark stage to get used in speeding up the reaction. Look at that. So two very important materials are actually taken from the light stage to the dark stage. One, energy-rich in a compound called ATP. Number two, hydrogen atoms. And for this process of making food in the dark stage that occurs in the stroma, where there's what we call carbon dioxide fixation, the process seems to be very slow. So what happens? We have what we call photosynthetic enzymes that can speed up the process of making the food in the plants. Okay, there's something called glycolysis in cell respiration. You see, respiration is the process where a substrate or food or a chemical organic compound is broken down in the presence of oxygen to produce energy. Chemical compounds or a substrate or food is broken down in the presence of oxygen to produce energy, carbon dioxide, and water. This energy can be used for different purposes. For example, if nerve impulses or electrical signals or any information from a receptor as a part of the body can get transmitted along a nerve fiber by the aid of energy. The absorption of food from the small intestine, you see, and into the bloodstream requires energy. You see, the absorption of water into the bloodstream, whether in the stomach or in the large intestine, you see, into the bloodstream requires energy. The contraction and relaxation of muscles to facilitate movement, to bring about movement, requires energy. The blinking of the eyes requires energy. The secretion of very useful substances like hormones, enzymes, digestive juices requires energy. For example, for the salivary glands, parotid, sublingual, and submandibular, to end up secreting saliva as a juice to aid in the breakdown of food requires energy. The gastric gland to secrete gastric juice to facilitate digestion, that requires energy. The pancreas as an organ, you see, to secrete pancreatic juice to facilitate the breakdown of food requires energy. The liver to even produce bile juice and store it temporarily in the gallbladder before it can get released through the bile duct to facilitate digestion in the duodenum requires energy. Look at this. The succus entericus or intestinal juice getting secreted by the cells of the small intestine called crypts of Leberkuchen requires energy. So all these processes, even excretion to release harmful or toxic substances from the body of a human being or an animal requires energy. So at the end of the day, this energy can get well utilized in different processes. Even for the working of the brain cells to coordinate each and every part of the body in terms of the different metabolic functions requires energy. So, and the water that gets produced during the breakdown of food is called metabolic water. This water can serve as another source of water when natural water that you actually get through drinking is unavailable. You see, and of course, water one can activate enzymes. Water can provide a medium for different metabolic functions. Look at this. You see, water can actually be able to alter the metabolic balance and be able to actually ensure that the balance is actually maintained during what you call osmoregulation. Water is a medium through which waste products can get removed from the body. Water can be used to soften food, you see, and to actually ensure that different parts of the body are moistened, whether digestive surfaces or breathing surfaces, you see. And the carbon dioxide that gets produced during this process is related to the surrounding. That is the carbon dioxide that gets used by plants during photosynthesis, you see, because carbon dioxide is a waste product to the bodies of animals. So during respiration, two processes occur, or you can actually be able to first start by explaining the two main types of respiration. Number one, aerobic respiration, where food is chemically broken down completely in the presence of oxygen to produce a large amount of energy, carbon dioxide, and water. So, aerobic respiration is where food or a substrate is completely broken down in the presence of oxygen, you see, to produce a large amount of energy, carbon dioxide, and water. So there's complete breakdown of food in the presence of oxygen so that a large amount of energy can get produced. So, and the other one is called anaerobic respiration, where food is incompletely broken down or partially broken down, you see, in the absence of oxygen to produce a small amount of energy, carbon dioxide, and what? Water, if it is aerobic. So the breakdown of food partially or incompletely in the absence of oxygen is called anaerobic respiration. And in this process, a small amount of energy is what? Produced. For example, if it is in plants, you can have the glucose getting broken down to give us ethanol, carbon dioxide, and some energy. So in plants, glucose can get broken down anaerobically, incompletely, partially, in the absence of oxygen to give us ethanol, carbon dioxide, and energy. While in animals, you can have the glucose getting broken down to give us lactic acid and some energy. So look at this. You are both breaking down the glucose in the absence of oxygen. The glucose gets broken down partially or incompletely so that you can be able to actually have what you call immediate products and some small amount of what? Energy. But if it is aerobic, then that means the glucose you have has to get broken down in the presence of oxygen. In the presence of oxygen. Easy. To give us what? Carbon dioxide, water, and a large amount of energy. And this energy is in the form of a compound called ATP. It's in the form of a compound called ATP. So, and as far as anaerobic respiration is concerned, there are two steps that occurs in this anaerobic respiration. We have what we call glycolysis, and glycolysis occurs in the cytoplasm. Look at this, where the glucose that we have as our source of energy gets broken down to give us what we call pyruvic acid. So glycolysis is where the glucose in the cytoplasm gets broken down in the absence of oxygen in both plants and animals, as far as their cells are concerned, to give us an immediate product called pyruvic acid or pyruvate. Pyruvic acid or pyruvate. Okay, so that means glycolysis occurs in the cytoplasm, where in both plants and animals, and as far as their cells are concerned, the glucose gets broken down partially to give us pyruvic acid or pyruvate, of course in the absence of oxygen. Then the pyruvic acid can get taken to what we call the Krebs cycle. The Krebs cycle, and the Krebs cycle now occurs in the mitochondria. This is where now the pyruvic acid or the pyruvate can get completely broken down in the presence of oxygen to give us now carbon dioxide, water, and energy in both plants and what? Animals. So Krebs cycle in the mitochondria. Glycolysis, partial breakdown of glucose to give us pyruvic acid or pyruvate in the cytoplasm. Okay, I think that is well sorted. So let's get to this question, numbered question 11. And the question reads, the main surfaces for gaseous exchange are known to have a large surface area. Identify the features that, okay, enhance the surface area in the following respiratory organs. The gill. You see, I think when you went to this topic called gaseous exchange, you actually told this, that the gill is a structure that is used to enhance gaseous exchange in organisms that fall under class Pisces. These are the fish, either made of a bony structure or a cartilage. And at the end of the day, the gill is made up of one, the gill rachis, the gill bar itself, that offers a surface on which the rachis can get attached, and the gill filaments. So how does gaseous exchange get to that point of getting well taken care of in terms of increasing the rate at which the gases can get exchanged? In as far as the gill is concerned, the gills have numerous gill filaments which spread out in the water to offer a larger surface area for gaseous exchange. That's why when you actually take a fish out of the water, the gill filaments clump together. The surface area is reduced, no medium for gaseous exchange, then the fish dies. So the gills have gill filaments, numerous in number, to ensure that a larger surface area is provided for gaseous exchange. When you look at the mammalian lung, the mammalian lung has numerous or many alveoli or air sacs. We'll talk about the nostrils, the nasal cavity, the trachea, the larynx, or the windpipe as well, also called the trachea, and what we call the bronchus, the bronchioles, and the air sacs. So the air sacs or the alveoli will increase the surface area for gaseous exchange. Look at that. So what aids in increasing the surface area for gaseous exchange in the mammalian lung? Air sacs or alveoli. We have millions of air sacs or alveoli in the lungs of human beings that can actually be able to offer a large surface area for gaseous exchange. If you go to the tracheal system in insects, you'll find that first an insect has what you call an opening called a spiracle. The spiracle can actually open to what we call a trachea. The trachea further branches to form tracheoles. So the tracheoles ramify throughout the whole body of the insect. So An insect has numerous tracheal tubes or tracheoles that ramify the whole body of the insect to ensure that each and every cell within the body of the insect has an access to the supply of oxygen, and can also be able to speed up the removal of carbon dioxide as a waste product. Some insects have a tracheal system in as far as their gases exchange is concerned, and in that means they have what you call tracheal tubes, tracheoles, that can actually be able to speed up the rate of gaseous exchange, tracheoles. And these are what you call alveoli or air sacs. And you need not just to talk about alveolar air sacs, you'll talk about numerous. Then you'll talk about many gill filaments that spread out in the water. So you can say several tracheoles. See? And that's what you need to know in as far as that is concerned. Thank you for your time, and let's meet in our next lesson.